Hello, and welcome to this week's episode of the Reset Podcast. I'm your host, Laura Munoz, CEO of experience agency D-Flash. Each week, I bring on a different business leader from a unique side of business and talk about how they got there and what they're up to, especially now as we're in this very unique time where we're all working from home. Figuring out how to navigate remote teams is so very important. So I'm so excited to have Kanchan Kumar, who's the CEO and co-founder of Remitr, talking about his experiences, how he's built his business, especially how he's been able to manage remote teams for quite some time, well before we had a global pandemic. It's going to be a great conversation. Take a listen. Hi, Kanchan.
Hi, Laura. How are you doing today? It's great to have you. Great to be on your podcast.
Oh, we're so glad to have you on. It's another strange day in New York City, locked inside. How about you?
I'm in Toronto. Pretty much the same. Maybe a little less intense than New York City.
You're probably right about that. It's probably a little less. You're in Canada, where people believe in science, so those things come in handy during a global pandemic. But even though we might be under some very unusual circumstances, the podcast still stays the same. So the first question remains the same. So, Kanchan, what was your first job?
I started out in 1990 writing software programs. That was my first job. That's the only thing which I know in my life is computer software. This was in India, and I was writing a software product, creating solutions for small businesses, keeping track of their various contacts. So it was a contact management software. In those days, they used to call personal information managers, PIMs. So I wrote a PIM software as my first job.
Wow, geez. Okay, so you were in it from the very beginning. So you're like, this is going to be the first thing I do. I'm going to make software.
Well, the fun part is that before I went to school to study applied computer science, I'd never seen computer in my life before that.
Wow. So what made you decide to so you never saw a computer before, and then you get to college and you're like, this is what I want to do. How'd that happen?
That happened because that was something which I didn't know about, and I didn't want to do something which I had already some ideas about. So I knew various different branches of engineering from my friends and siblings and family members, and I didn't want to do any of that. So computer science was something which I had no idea about, and I said, this will be cool to learn what is this new beast called computer. So I just enrolled myself.
Awesome. All right, so then you're already on the road for computer science. So how do we get to Remitr? What was that journey like?
One and the only job which I did was the one that I joined in 1990. This was a startup way back. In those days, there was no term called startup. It was a small company. That's how they used to call startups. So the new company, small company. I joined them. It was less than 10-employee company. I and my co-founder, Sandeep, both of us had done our applied computer science program together. And then we joined this company where he was working on financial accounting product. I was working on personal information manager. And I stayed with that company for almost 12 years before the company became pretty significant size. And then I decided that I know a lot, and I think I can do my own venture. And I moved to another city, which is Mumbai in India, and started my first company, only to realize much later that I didn't really know as much as I thought I knew about running a company.
Oh, wow. And then you're like, okay, I'm doing this.
So yeah, I mean, since I was all into it, so I didn't really have a choice. I had to do it.
you had no choice. You were like,
if you think you know swimming, and if you jump in the sea, what will happen? I mean, you will learn swimming. You don't have a choice, otherwise you'll die, right?
Yeah, so it's like it literally is sink or swim. So you're like, you know what? I'm just gonna go do this, whatever.
So that was my first company. From there, it went through its own set of learning experiences, ups and downs, moved into second company, and found some new challenges to solve. And that's how Remitr happened, because the last company that I was running, it was a SaaS company. And I had customers across various different parts of the world who would keep making payments through wire transfers. And then we had some contractors that we would be paying through PayPal. And I knew how painful it was and how costly it was. And I didn't know anything about how to solve that. So I said, this is a good time. Why don't I learn how to solve it? And I started Remitr.
And what does Remitr do?
So Remitr is a new way to pay and get paid for small businesses. This is basically built to support Canadian businesses making payments across Canada and 150 countries all across the world, which are on our global network that we have built. And then, which basically ensures that as a business, you go ahead, connect your bank account, connect your accounting software, then our software tells you, hey, this is an invoice which is due to be paid, one tap, and we go and make that payment to the supplier from your bank account. We reconcile your books, we let the supplier know that the payment has reached your bank account. So in a sense, what we're trying to do here for small businesses is making the payment faster, because we guarantee one business day payment, next business day, anywhere in the world payment reaches. We make it guaranteed. So if you send 1,563 euros to someone in France, they will receive 1,563 euros, no deductions from that amount. And most importantly, we do that all with one single tap. So that's what we really built over a period of time, learning from our past experience and talking to customers as we kept working with them.
That's so awesome. And, it's interesting because I think so many small businesses, especially here in the US, finding a platform where you can, have the most bang for your buck, where like all the fees get cut out of it. And so you all have sort of pioneered that way everywhere else but the US right now.
That's right. So, so basically now we not only do payouts, but also pay-ins. So say, for example, you're a small business and you got customer in Europe, which is paying in euros. Today, they would send you a wire transfer. They would spend $20 sending the wire. You would spend $15 receiving a wire, and you still not know exactly how many US dollars you will get. So what we're doing is that we're creating an international banking platform. It's called GBA, Global Business Accounts. So you open one account with us, we give you a US dollar, a Canadian, a GBP, and a Euro account, so that you can receive payments from your customers as if you're a local business in each of these different countries.
That's so cool. When are you coming to the US with this?
Sometime very soon.
That's gonna be really cool. So it's interesting. So you probably have clients, so you're in Toronto, you probably have clients all around the world. And I'm guessing your team is all around the world too, right?
That's right. So because we started out in India, and we have network in India, so we built our engineering team and operations team in India. We have most of our marketing, sales, product, compliance, banking, everything here in Toronto, and the first outfit in New York is being led by Christina, the only person. So that's how we are spread out. One of our team member is in Dubai. So we are really spread out. We have hired people wherever we could find them. And we said, wherever you are, you could just work from there. This is how we have been as a company. But what has changed is before this pandemic, we had offices in different places where they could go and work. So they may not necessarily be working from home all the time. What this has changed is that the face-to-face contact has gone away completely. And now everyone is fully remote, even if they're in the same city, but we just live online.
And what's that been like? Like, obviously you had a distributed team before the pandemic, how did you figure out a way to sort of have that sort of team bonding and team unity before the pandemic, and how's that kind of changed now that we're in the middle of this unusual time?
So there are a few things. When you work with remote teams and teams in different time zones, then very clearly everyone has to be flexible about what is work time and what is personal time. Because obviously, you cannot expect one part of the world to always work in your time zone. So primarily, our business happens in the Eastern time zone, but that doesn't mean that everyone who works in the company has to work in Eastern time zone. Secondly, the teams which pre-pandemic teams which were working together in the same city, they would meet often. They would possibly work out of the same place, and they would have their own set of bonding sessions. They would have their own water cooler conversations. All of that would happen, and then all we needed to do was to ensure that the teams in different cities are in sync. However, post-pandemic, that has changed completely because, in fact, it's changed for better, because now you don't really have a team in India and a team in Canada. You just have one team which is everywhere. So whatever you do now, you think about doing it for the entire team and not just for, oh, this is what you're doing as an exercise for team in Toronto. This is what you're doing as an exercise for team in Mumbai. So if you look at that, that has made life actually much easier because you just have one team.
That's interesting. So, and as a result, like, are you able to sort of like do kind of one team activities? Because if you've got folks who are really like 12 hours in the future, how does that all work?
Yeah, so a lot of things have changed how we plan activities. Very certainly, people are working in different time zones. What has also happened is because people work from home, so it's not just about work hour, but the work hour is also intersects with your family hour, which means you got to take care of your kid, you got to cook food, some things that you would not really bother about while you're working in office, which basically means that work from home has also become flexible work hours. And that has allowed us to create activities which are at different times. So for example, one thing that changed was that as soon as we went full remote and we started working from home, we started doing weekly all hands meetings. So every Tuesday, 8:30 in the morning sharp, we have everyone from their homes all across the world. They join in on one Zoom call, and we share our highs and lows. There would be at least one person who would make presentation about what's new, what has happened in their team or their department, what are the new achievements. So it's a pretty interesting exercise. It is not just work and it's not just personal. It's just all combined into one. That works really well because it just brings everyone on a same page in terms of work as well as whatever is happening in their life. It's like check-in that you do with everyone together.
So it's better. It's a virtual one-on-one, but it's all in one.
Exactly. It's all in one, and you're doing check-ins. Everyone is doing check-ins, but you also talk about work and you talk about your personal life. It's all there, all together.
And how's your team sort of been during this time? Because I think, I obviously as an entrepreneur, it's a very unique time for me and can sometimes feel a little bit isolating. But like, how has it been for your team? How have they sort of adapted and felt in this really bizarre set of circumstances we're all stuck in?
Yeah, the interesting part is that everyone realizes that this is something which is beyond everyone's control, which basically means that everyone has to make that extra effort to be part of it. So for example, when we actually mix, when in all hands, when we mix the personal and professional achievements and highs and lows, it allows people to talk about their personal challenges. Someone is not able to sleep, someone has mental issues. Then there are events which happen around them. For example, recently, a very, very popular Bollywood star committed suicide. And that has caused a lot of anxiety among people. So this allowed not just everyone to talk about in all hands, but it also means that from there on, one-on-one, people bond together. We had this one particular situation where that caused anxiety in a team member. He wasn't able to sleep. One member, someone from our team who works in Dubai, connected with him, was guiding him how to relax, how to sleep, how to manage time. It has actually created a very new kind of bonding within team. It certainly has taken a lot of effort on everyone's part. It's not been easy, but I think our team is managing pretty well.
Yeah, that's actually really outstanding because I think, one of the things oftentimes we don't hear enough about is like the mental health aspect of us. Us being stuck indoors, is leaving an indelible impact on everyone and on everyone in very unique ways. And it's refreshing to see that, you all as a company have figured out that the best thing you can do is sort of work that through together. What made you sort of decide to make sure that mental health was part of the communications and aspect of what you do with the team?
I think there are two parts to it. One part, of course, is I've seen many summers and I've gone through my own highs and lows in life. So I understand it's not easy to be in a stressful situation, particularly when you work in a startup environment. Startup environment has a particular label attached that which basically prohibits people from talking about their highs and lows. I've been through it myself, so I know what it really feels like. So I certainly wanted to ensure that we create an environment within our team which is very open to talk about these things. There's no stigmas attached. That's one. The second thing, which I think I would give credit to the team and the kind of team that we have built, that they have the maturity to take it, to discuss it, and not just solve it for themselves, but also whatever they've learned, they share it with the rest of the team members without really having to create a program or to prod or nudge someone about it. They just do it naturally. I think that credit goes to the team and their maturity.
Yeah, I think that's so true. I think, what's also that, you all were actually able to create an environment where people could be open and be honest and, and lift each other up as opposed to tear each other down. And that comes from a really awesome company culture, which clearly you guys have.
Thank you. Yeah, it does. I agree. It does start from the founders and the founding team, what kind of culture you build. But it's a lot about the kind of people that you hire and what do you hire for decides the company culture. I fundamentally believe that company culture is not about set of cool statements that you write on the your office or
Yes.
whiteboard. It's about what you live and breathe. And that happens with the kind of team that you build right from the hiring stage itself.
It's so true. It's like, who are you hiring? Like, are you hiring people who will actually lift up other coworkers, or are there, go, me, and nobody else matters?
Exactly. So I think having the concept of a shared win is extremely important. While everyone has their personal responsibilities, and we are not saying that individuals should only be thinking about a bigger goal and not their personal goals, because ultimately each individual is their own responsibility. Collectively make us achieve the company goal. But if you get people who are team players, who believe in being open communication, supportive to each other, and understand that no one in an organization wins alone. There's no way that one can do that. As long as your team members are like that, you would never fail as an organization.
So true. And so refreshing to hear. And thank you, Hannah, for sharing that. So, obviously, we're all going through a really unique and weird time um, in 2020. How are you sort of managing? What have you been doing for sort of your self care?
Yeah, it's interesting time because one, there's not much that you could do outside initially. Off late, of course, I've started to go out and back to street running. That's what I love. That's my passion. And it's refreshing to be able to go out, even if you're wearing a mask, to go out running. But before that, what I started doing was some yoga and pranayama, which is basically breathing exercises. That helps. It just gives us time to be with ourselves, to focus on our breathing, and not think about everything else which is happening around us. That's very meditative. Of course, I always love cooking. This has given me ample opportunities to learn about cooking. Things that I thought I could not cook is something that I'm able to cook now. And yeah, so in addition to that, I think what is important is that I've had a lot of time to read books, and I had I'm someone who basically buys books, and it stays on the Kindle for a very long time, and then I will buy another one before I open the first one. But this has given me opportunity to catch up on a lot of my reading, and started doing rereading some of the books which I had read long time back. And when you reread them, you suddenly realize that, oh yeah, there's a lot which is happening now, which you can now relate to what you read possibly 5 years ago or 10 years ago in a book. And that's refreshing as well. So a combination of these things is keeping me sane. But the fact is that um, this pandemic has also brought a lot of things. It's created a lot of opportunities for us to solve problems for our core customer base, which is small businesses, because small businesses are changing rapidly. They have to adapt and they need help. While talking to our customers, I'm learning a lot about what we could do, and we are very rapidly creating those solutions for them. So, it's keeping me busy and giving me time to really think and reflect.
Awesome. And so necessary. I think that's the thing, that, everyone's business is changing, whether you're a huge company, small business owner, entrepreneur, solopreneur, but getting back to sort of taking care of yourself is of paramount importance, because that'll be the only way we get through this. Like, not everyone's gonna have to be able to write the next great novel or lose 50 pounds, but it's like, are you taking care of yourself to live the best you can every single day is all we can ask for, and not try and drive ourselves crazy. Looking back on where you are now and what you've done, what would you tell 25-year-old Kanchan?
Huh. I would tell my 25-year-old self not to be so cocksure about anything in future.
Ah, really?
Yes. Because, while we're young, we take a whole lot of things for granted. We think that everything will only change for better. However, you just realize that things just change. Whether it changes for better or not depends a lot on how you take it. Because something is better for you may not be as good for someone else. So gratitude is something that you should focus on. Positivity and making the best of what you get is what you should focus on, and that's what I would tell my 25-year-old self.
That's fantastic advice. Because I think it's like, okay, not everything is going to be done by the time you're 30. Like, take a chill pill for a little bit and you'll figure it out. Like, and you don't have all the answers. And when I think back to like who I was at 25 and who I am now, I don't know. I think I probably slapped 25-year-old me. So So I totally get it. It's okay. You'll figure it out, but it's gonna take some time. And you have plenty of time. That's the most important part about it.
Yeah.
So as part of the series, I'm asking folks who come on the show if they have a give and or an ask of the audience. And so, Kanchan, what would your give and or ask of the audience be?
Give. I can only share my experience, and that's what I can give. I'd like to share my experience about how we went about building the team that we built, and then I'll get to ask because that's related to it. Does that make sense?
Yeah, sure. Go for it.
Great. So I would really give up my experience. I'll share my experience about how we went about building the team that we have built. Me and my co-founder Sandeep, 2016, um, two brown guys, middle-aged men, landing in Canada, first-time immigrants, building a team for a startup where you don't really have a whole lot of money to go and hire the people just because you can pay a lot of money. Was challenging, but it was fun. It was fun because it was a great learning experience on how do you build a diverse team. Uh, there's a lot of discussion which does not happen. And the reason why I'm talking about this today here is because these are discussions that we must have. When you build early team, initial set of people that you hire really decides what kind of team you would grow into, what kind of organizations you would grow into. So I remember two of us, we were looking at our first hire to head marketing. When you come from a particular country, ethnicity, you attract the same kind of people more. So obviously we were getting a whole lot brown men applying. It would be pretty easy to just go ahead and hire because someone that you can relate to ethnically, culturally, and the person is fit for the job, why would you not hire? But that's a time to take a pause and think what kind of organization you want to build and who is going to be the foundation. And if diversity is not one of the key traits, you are right from the beginning, you cannot become diverse much later. And that's when we decided we are going to hire, our first hire here is going to be a woman. It took us time. It was not easy because we did not have many women applying for the position. We took help. We spoke to some experts and said, why is it that women are not applying to our position? They looked at the job profile that we created and they said, the reason is because women look very differently to a job profile than how men look at it. And women would not apply to a job profile if they don't think they're 100% suitable for this job profile. Take these things out, which you don't mean to say it here, or which you are not really looking for. That changed a lot. We certainly had a longer wait time, but then we did hire the person that we wanted to hire, and she did a really good job for us. It also brought about some conflicts in our mind, because when you think of hiring and you're saying, I would want to hire for diversity as one of the traits, then you're also on a borderline, you're asking yourself a question that, are you being racist for not hiring someone just because of their gender or race? Because it may cut both ways. At the same point in time, you look at your small organization and you figure it out that someday this is going to become big. And if you do not build this right in the beginning, you would rather err on the side of caution. And I would really urge everyone when they're hiring, when you're building team, think of diversity. It's not, if you work hard enough, it does not come at the cost of merit. You just have to look hard enough. So that's my give in terms of sharing my experience.
That's wonderful, Kanchan, and so important. I have to say that in 150 episodes at this point I've done, that's the simplest explanation that a man has given as to why you need to build a diverse workplace. And it's so necessary for a man to say that, especially for a man of color to say that, because oftentimes it's sort of swept under the rug or just sort of washed over. And you really wonderfully and eloquently explained that, like, if you don't do it in the beginning, catching up is going to take forever. And I think in this current climate that we're all in, especially here in the U.S., with the our racial unrest and talking about Black Lives Matter and how old systems and institutions are coming down, and racism is being called out. You're demonstrating what it actually means when it starts at the top, and it doesn't require brain surgery. It requires thoughtfulness, care, patience, and timing. So I can't thank you enough for saying that.
This is something that we believe in, and that leads to my ask. And that ask goes around is about getting involved in whatever is happening in our society. We know that Black Lives Matter is something that we've been hearing for a long time. It's not the first time that we are hearing about it. But what really happens is that it is always, you look at people who are going out on the street protesting, they will get back to work, but that does not translate into any action that you are taking within your own sphere, in your workplace, in your family, in your friend circle. When we talk about diversity has to extend everywhere. It cannot be that we say, oh, go ahead and make the police force or the law enforcement or any other public organization more diverse. You get more Black people, or you get more people of color, you get more women out there. The fact is that what we do in our friend circle, what we do in our workplace is something which is a reflection of what really happens in the larger society. So my real ask is that as anyone who runs a business, who is part of an organization, please go ahead and get yourself involved in this. Getting involved starts with educating yourself, accepting that some of us may not be as good at following what we are really learning. So go ahead, it's fine. We have to start somewhere. Believe me, when I landed in Canada, I did not understand diversity as well as I understand here. And this coming from a fact that I come from a country which is diverse. We got like 18 official languages in that country. But we just took it as a normal day-to-day experience. But when you come to Canada and the definition of diversity changes completely, right? You have to rewire yourself. You have to learn about things. And there's no shame in accepting that many of our organizations are not perfect. Our organization is not perfect. There's a lot that we could do. So my ask really is that let's just go and educate ourselves and then get involved in bringing about the change that we're really wanting to see.
Awesome. Kanchan, thank you so much. Like, you just, that was one of the loveliest gives and asks I've had since I instituted this for 2020. So thank you so very much. You just got oodles of wisdom and honesty and care. And I think it's just really important to hear a voice like yours. So I'm so honored that you were able to join me on the show today. Thank you so very much.
My pleasure entirely. I'm happy that I'm able to get a platform to share my thoughts.
Awesome. So we'll put information about Remitr in the show notes and learn more about what Kanchan is up to, because at some point soon they will be in the US. But I can't wait to hear more when you guys do. But it's a fantastic company led by a really dynamic and incredible leader. So thank you all for listening. And that is our show.